It's my nerd world, and welcome to it, a Depeche Mode podcast. Yes, it's been a long time, far too long, but the show is back because, well, we got quite a bit of news to talk about. A 101 HD release. I'll give you details and my thoughts on what's coming out in December. Dave Gahan has a new covers album with Soulsavers coming out soon, and he did a lengthy article with The Guardian that I will share with you. And I have a little bit, don't get too excited, but I do have a little bit of insider info on what the band has been up to and the potential of a new album in the future. So let's not waste any more time and get right to it. I'm so glad that you're with the show this week, and I apologize for taking so long before I got a new episode out. It is my nerd world, and I am your host, Jon Justice of the Depeche Mode podcast. Glad you're with the show, and thank you to everybody who has reached out over the course of the past several months and asked me, hey, Jon, when are you going to have another new episode? Well, the time has finally arrived because we've got a lot of things to talk about.
My nerd world.
As always, you can email TalkShowNerd@gmail.com if you happen to be watching the audio version up on YouTube. Leave a comment in the comment section on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe. Hit the bell so that on the rare occasion when I do put out an episode, you know that it's been uploaded. And you can always go to mynerdworld.net where you can find out everything about My Nerd World and the science fiction novels that I write. And it's relevant if you're a sci-fi fan and you like Depeche Mode, but I'll talk about that much later on in the episode. So we've quite a bit of news to talk about, and I do have a little bit of insider info that I'll share a little bit later on in the show. Probably the biggest item to get to is the upcoming release of Depeche Mode 101. The groundbreaking Depeche Mode 101 documentary film and live concert will be available in a brand new upgraded HD version right around December 3rd. So let's go ahead and get right into it and let you know what you can expect in this box set if you choose to go that route. Now, this is very near and dear to me. I'm 49 years old, and if you want the complete backstory on my relationship with Depeche Mode, because it really is a relationship, right? I would encourage you to go back and check out the previous episodes where I've talked quite extensively about how I first became familiar with the band and my love and obsession with the band ever since then. Depeche Mode 101, landed in that time period for the band where, especially for fans of my age, if you're around the same, age as I am, where, 15, 16, 17, we're coming into our own. Depeche Mode is gaining popularity like they've never seen before, and they are speaking to us at a time when we didn't have, especially for us alternative rock fans, we didn't have a lot of voices that we could relate to. And a lot of what I talk about on the show is very, very personal, but I think that's the connection that we have to this band. It is a very personal connection. I found Depeche just prior to Music for the Masses. Shake the Disease was when I was first introduced to them. So Music for the Masses was the first release that I was anticipating from the band. It wasn't the first album that I purchased. I went to go and purchase what I thought was material that it wasn't. I thought I was going to get the album that Shake the Disease was on, and I ended up with Black Celebration in my hands, and of course that just changed my life forever. But Music for the Masses was the first album that came out where I can still remember to this day going out to the theater, not to the theater, to the record store in Arcadia, California, going and getting the cassette tape, taking it home, closing and locking the door to my bedroom, pulling out, the insert and listening to the album for the first time all the way through and following along with the lyrics. And this would be a ritual that I would repeat in various different formats ever since I first got that first release. And this time period between Music for the Masses and Violator, in my view, was probably one of with the release of 101, the live album, and then, of course, the concert, it was probably the most significant time period between two albums. The most important time period between two albums. And it was special in the standpoint of it kind of ruined things moving forward, because I think going forward there was a little bit of an expectation that we would always kind of get something like this between albums. But this was really a very unique situation, and 101 was a very unique film. So before I add any more of my own personal commentary to it, let's get into the details of what you can expect coming up in December with the release of a digitally restored version of their 1989 concert film and documentary, Depeche Mode 101. The band's film chronicled the 101st and final performance of their Music for the Masses World Tour. I was blessed enough to be there when it was recorded live at California's Pasadena Rose Bowl on June 18th, 1988, helmed by D.A. Pennebaker, rest in peace. Chris Hedges and David Dawkins also followed contest winners, traveling across the U.S. to attend the landmark Rose Bowl gig. Of course, this was one of the first sort of reality-type experiences that a lot of us had ever been a part of before. Now, the HD release will feature unseen footage from the show, including bonus performances of Question of Lust, Sacred, Something to Do, plus the official promo video for Everything Counts. Its release is on December 3rd, 2021. It's available for pre-order now as a limited edition 5-disc Blu-ray, 2 DVDs, and 2 CD box set with additional bonus content. Fans can also just buy it as a standalone Blu-ray. And I believe that Rhino's got it up for like $139, and I saw it on Amazon for $120. I haven't pre-ordered it just yet. I probably will in the next week or so. Per the press material, additional contents in the limited edition Depeche Mode 101 box set include a 48-page behind-the-scenes story of the day photo book, a 20 by 30 replica of the original U.S. theatrical release movie poster, a 16-page Anton Corbijn photo mode book as featured in the original album release, a double CD of the original 20-track 101 concert release, and a download card providing access to 4K downloads of the film and bonus performances plus 24-bit audio files of the 101 concert release. The 2 DVDs in the set contain the original extras from the 2003 DVD release, Depeche Mode 101, which are exclusive to the DVD discs. Depeche Mode said in a statement, "It's incredible to be able to see D.A. Pennebaker's film and this period of our career presented in this new high-definition light." Co-director Chris Hedges added, "We are thrilled to partner with Sony on the digital restoration of Depeche Mode 101, definitely one of our all-time favorite films and one of our favorite filmmaking experiences." Depeche Mode 101's parallel realities following the historic tour of this pioneering British band as they storm across America, bringing an exciting new sound to the masses, along with an intimate view of a busload of ardent young fans on an unforgettable road trip to the Rose Bowl, made this documentary a groundbreaking influence on the reality genre. Making this movie was a grand adventure for both of us, Pennebaker and Hedges, and by the end of the tour, we became their biggest fans, and we're excited to introduce this new release to new audiences. I'll tell you, one of the things that I was actually, I don't want to say more excited about, but almost equally excited about is if you're on the mailing list for DepecheMode.com, you've received this as well. But they did send out an email earlier this week and, highlighting the 101 edition and the new merchandise collection. And this had me really excited because, as with the releases around this time period, and I think for a lot of us, all the releases, right? I mean, the artwork around Depeche Mode has always been a very important aspect of the material that they release. The music always comes first, but, Anton's work and the artwork and the videos, they all work in tandem together. What Anton did with the artwork and the photographs and the black and white for 101. I mean, it was incredible. It really was. Taking what was available on the Music for the Masses tour, translating that to the live album, the poster that you can get the replica of. I had a buddy of mine, Forrest Meadows, who we recently became back in contact with over all these years. I was friends with him right around this time period, and we were both massive Depeche Mode fans. And I remember that he had that poster, and it's that black and white specific Anton Corbijn shot of Dave Gahan with his hand up in the air from the back on stage. It is for us Depeche Mode fans, it is an iconic image, as is the image of the band in those four squares, in the black and white, on the T-shirts. And so, getting back to the merchandise part of it, I don't have any of that merchandise anymore. I can go back and look at high school photos and out of high school photos from around that time period. And I know I had some shirts, but I don't have any of those anymore. And now you can go and get the merchandise that is replicas, reprints of those original T-shirts. And I'm really excited, especially the stylized DM logo with the Bong USA with the date on it. I mean, I could drop money on every single one of these. The actual Rose Bowl T-shirt that has Pasadena Rose Bowl with the stars on it. The iconic merchandise stand photo with the band there. The large block letters, of Mode with Depeche in the O, USA 1988. I mean, it all just floods. It floods me with those nostalgic feels because of, again, just how important that particular time period was, not only for the band, but for us as fans. And I really do believe that the release of 101, that live album, and the movie, and those of us that were following the band at that time, it really did set the stage for what ended up becoming one of their most important eras, and subsequent sort of two eras there, right? The Violator era and what came with that, and the contrast of going from Music for the Masses, and I'm thinking now in terms of the artwork, but music as well, right? Music for the Masses and what that music was, and how we related to it, the songs on that, the deep emotions to it. There was a starkness to it all. And certainly that was the case when you get to 101, the live album release and the movie. So much of all the artwork was all in black and white. But again, it was relevant, and it was awesome. And we get to the Violator era, and now we have this bright red rose on the cover of this album. We still have the patented sort of black and white imagery that Anton Corbijn is so known for, but then you have this departure that is something entirely new in Violator while still being distinctly Depeche Mode. And that's what was so special about that trio of albums that I've talked about before on previous shows, which is, and I know that moves around for a lot for a lot of different people, but that trilogy of Music for the Masses, Violator, and Songs of Faith and Devotion. Three very distinct albums, three very specific pieces of art in all different aspects that are, again, all wholly different while still being distinctly, I'm using that word way too often, but I don't care, Depeche Mode. And Music for the Masses and 101 set the stage for all of that. And if you're like me and you went to the theater, and I still have all the stories, and and I've talked about this before on previous episodes, so on previous shows, so I'm not going to repeat myself here. But I still remember all those people that I knew during that period of time, and the funny stories attached to when I went out to go see the film on the first time, and going to see the movie for the first time, going to a movie theater to see Depeche Mode. And if you're a younger listener to the show, I'll wipe out here for just a moment, and then we'll get into this interview that Dave Simpson from The Guardian did just recently, about 2 weeks ago with Dave. But if you're a younger listener to the podcast who found Depeche Mode later in life, and you've only known a world with the internet and social networking, when 101 came out, we didn't have any of that. And so, our entertainment experiences were limited to what we could see on sort of VHS at home, what we saw on regular television, and then when you went to the movie theater, and the movie theater was kind of the end-all, be-all, right? So to go to a legitimate movie theater, not like an art house, but an actual, multiplex, and see Depeche Mode on the big screen, it was solidifying something for us as fans that didn't need to be solidified, but still was just the epitome of awesome. It was just awesome. I'm watching Depeche Mode on the big screen, and I'm excited, man. I'm excited come December to be able to get another version. Right? I still remember the first time that my girlfriend got me, at the time, the VHS tape for 101, and how excited I was. And then, of course, getting the DVD later on. And now, full circle, we're going to be able to get the Blu-ray, the HD, all of these different extras that go along with it, and of course, this merchandise as well. It's just awesome. Next best thing to actually getting, right, like new Depeche Mode content, right? So, if you are waiting for new Depeche Mode content, it's not Depeche Mode, but you will be able to hear, or you can hear right now, actually, some new Dave Gahan content. So, Dave Simpson of The Guardian sat down with Dave Gahan a couple of weeks ago, asked him a series of questions, and I'm just going to share with you the Q&A that went down. Did you accomplish everything you set out to on the forthcoming album, Imposter? Dave says, I was really burned out after the last Depeche Mode tour. Then Rich Machen, longtime musical partner in Soulsavers, and I started talking about songs and artists who had influenced us. Before we knew it, we were making a Soulsavers record. For me as a frontman, that paid homage to those songs, but it was also a new piece of work. I realized that the choices were songs that put me where I am, suggested where I have been and where I might be. They are songs such as Dan Penn, James Carr's Dark End of the Street, and Bob Dylan's Not Dark Yet that reflect on lives lived. I would not have known how to sing these songs when I was 18. Did you avoid David Bowie or Roxy Music songs as you have covered them previously? Dave says, as a teenager, I didn't realize that Bowie's Pinups and Brian Ferry's These Foolish Things were covers albums. They sounded like their own albums. Bowie was on the original long list for Imposter, but I wanted to mix Elvis, Always on My Mind, Neil Young, A Man Needs a Maid, and so on with more contemporary artists. Mark Lanigan's Strange Religion came up immediately. We've done Cat Power's Metal Heart, PJ Harvey's Unusually Intimate, The Desperate Kingdom of Love with a 10-piece band. Roland S. Howard Shut Me Down was a unique guitar player in The Birthday Party, but his songwriting, melody, and lyrical content have been overlooked, and I wanted to pay homage to the post-punk DIY thing, which was so important to us when we started. Punk taught us that if we had an idea, there were ways to get it done. I've been singing Martin Gore's songs in Depeche Mode for 40 years, so I've already been doing my homework, he laughs. Over the years, not right from the beginning, but that has become a thing where I hear a song, I hear Martin's words, his melodies, and then I'll work with the song before I go back the next day with a suggested key change or tempo arrangement or whatever. That's what we do when we're in the studio together. It's the same thing. How do I make this my own? Martin and I have had that kind of relationship for years, and there's a synergy between us, and so we're able to get out of the way and just work on what is best for the song. Like everyone, you've had ups and downs. Is there anything you regret? Regret is a weird word. I don't look back on my life like that anymore, or use excuses for choices I've made. Gahan was technically dead for 2 minutes following a heroin overdose in 1986, it says in parentheses. Good or bad, they have consequences, but I'm leading a pretty blessed life here in New York. I just enjoy what I'm doing as much as I can. Which performers helped inspire your stagecraft? From an early age, Mick Jagger. When I was a kid, I danced around a lot and mimicked people on Top of the Pops. Bowie was a big influence. But when I was 14, I was infatuated with Dave Vanian from The Damned, his whole stage persona. As a teenager, I saw all the glam stuff on Top of the Pops and then took from people like James Brown, Prince, and Elvis. When I first started performing, I was paralyzed with terror. I'd hang on to the microphone and my knuckles would be clenched afterwards. I found that if I moved around, I didn't feel so nervous. I kept moving, and gradually, with all the stuff I was nicking, I found something of my own. What's the best book you've ever read? EMBARK by Jon Justice. Just kidding. Dave says this. I really liked Philip Norman's biographies of the Beatles, Shout, and especially the Stones. I'm currently reading Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas again and laughing a lot more because I know that stuff. When you think you're on a mission and it's nuts, that first line, we were somewhere around Barstow on the edge of the desert when the drugs began to take hold, sets it up. What are your current favorite albums that are inspiring you to make music? I've been playing the Stones' Exile on Main Street a lot, this shambolic, beautiful thing. I've been playing along to it badly, probably, but I love that feeling. I'm in the Stones, he laughs. I just got a new album from Bobby Gillespie and Jenny Beth from the Savages, It's a step down, it's a step out of the norm for them, which drew me to it. When were you last in Basildon? Are you aware of that weird roundabout that doesn't really go anywhere on the A127? Kinda, he says. I kind of know which one this is about, but I don't really remember. Nowadays, because I'm living in the States, when I go back to England, I sometimes drive on the wrong side of the road, especially at the roundabouts. The last tour, I took my son and daughter to my old road, Bonnygate, and pointed to the little council semi where I grew up. I had to explain it was two houses attached together. It was good for them to see where I came from. What was the best? Now, I'm looking at this, by the way. I just want to say this out now, and I'm looking at this, by the way, and this might be questions taken from other fans because there are different names attached to it. So I just wanted to point that out for the sake of clarity. It sounds like there's a lot of different tags on every single one of these questions, so these might be fan questions from other individuals. What has been the best teacher for you in life, pain or love? Let me get the inflection right on that. Which has been the best teacher for you in life, pain or love? They are both very, very close in line for me. I'm not going to say any more because I'd get myself in trouble. Dave laughs. If you could record a song with anyone, living or dead, singer, musician, or producer, who would it be? I think Daniel Leoni. I always get this wrong, by the way. Lanios? Daniel Lanios? Ethereal sound might bring something really interesting to Martin's hardcore electronics. Brian Eno's name came up once, but then he started working with Coldplay, so we couldn't do that even if it was a possibility. We always try to take a risk. We did some great records with Flood. I'd like to work with him again. Boy, I'd love to have Flood back on an album. How much have the events of the last 2 years affected you, and will we hear it in future songs? It affected all of us, he says. If I'm not working, I spend a lot of time isolated, but I've grown more comfortable with that, and now I see it as a friend. I've had a spurt of inspiration, so ... we'll see. I think it was Bobby Gillespie who once said in an interview that you would chastise your band members for putting cutlery into the dishwasher the wrong way up. Is this true? And have you got other domestic-based chunks of wisdom? Dave laughs. He says, I do have a pet hate with people putting stuff in the dishwasher, and I will turn things around if somebody has loaded it incorrectly. With our current machine, you lay the cutlery in line on a rack, which means it's even more abysmal. Obsessional. My tip is to never use an oven self-cleaning facility more than once, because any more than that, and I will overheat and destroy the oven. I found that out recently. What was the last best concert that you have attended by another band? Sugar Ross of Beacon Theater, New York, around 2002. The sound and the beauty and the sheer power of the music was incredible. I was so overwhelmed with the feelings that it brought me to tears. And I'm probably saying that wrong, too. I'll be honest, so much of the music that Dave Kahn's a fan of I am not familiar with. Like, even with the Soulsavers album, for me, I'm not particularly drawn to it, and I'll talk more about that in just a moment. If you hadn't been a musician, what would you like to have spent your life doing? He says, I could have been some kind of thief. When I was 16, it wasn't looking good. I was easily led, but I also liked painting. Age 17, I went to the same art college as Alison Moyet and a couple of other guys from Talk Talk. Out of that scene came a chance to participate in music, which gave me a sense of purpose. It felt like the weirdos were my kind of people. I still hang out with weirdos. So again, that was the interview from The Guardian, and I think those were fan questions that were asked of Dave Gahan in that. Let me double back to something, and then I'll share with you a bit of insider information that I have. It's not big. I'm not going to oversell it, but I do have a little bit of info. But, you know, I've not personally been particularly drawn to the solo stuff by either Dave or Martin, or Alan for that matter. I have all of it apart from Soulsavers. I do like Martin stuff. I got to be in the mood for Martin Gore's solo work, whether it's MG, whether it's Counterfeit 1, whether it's Counterfeit 2. I haven't really been able to get into The Third Chimpanzee. I did a podcast on it. That was one of the last podcasts we did, and you know, it's interesting. It's good for background music, but it is not something since its release that I have found myself leaning back to. I actually have found myself as of late listening to Counterfeit 1. That takes me back again to that time period right around Violator, at sort of the height of my growing fandom as a young teenager growing into an adult. I was not particularly fond of Dave's cover of Nothing Else Matters, and what he's done with Soulsavers hasn't really been my cup of tea. I like some of his solo work. All of that is to say, for me personally, is that the magic of Depeche Mode is Depeche Mode. It's those guys working together. And there's been so much commentary, right, around the sound of the band, what the band produced after Alan Wilder left, and I still believe that the majority of their best work was with Alan Wilder, but that's not to say that I haven't loved a majority of what they've done since then. I think Martin and and Dave and Fletch have all done a fantastic job, along with the other individuals, Gordino, and Christian Eiger, that they've brought along with them. I haven't been revisiting Spirit as much as I kind of thought that I did. A couple of tracks on that album I absolutely love, but as a whole, it just didn't completely grab me. The throwaways, for me personally, on that album aren't songs that I'm going to revisit anytime soon. But that's, kind of par for the course with most of the albums that they've had over the course of the past decade or so. Again, not like it was back when those last Alan Wilder albums came out. And that also just might be, a matter of, being more subjective when you get older, as opposed to when you're in those core years as a young adult and you're into this band and you just love everything that they put out, and there's a nostalgic feel to all of it. I will say that I found recently, I went back and revisited Playing the Angel and suddenly found myself gravitating to every single one of the songs on that album in a way that I hadn't before. It reminds me a lot about listening to old classic rock music that I was never into when I was younger. For example, I work at a radio station because I'm a talk show host, and they pump the stations through the building, right? Even though the only staff that's there because of the pandemic is still just the actual talent. On occasion, there's a few salespeople showing up, but for the most part, the whole floor is empty. But the other morning, they were playing "Let's Dance" by David Bowie, and I was never a fan of that song. And suddenly, I just found myself having a new appreciation for it. And going back, like I said, listening to Playing the Angel and even Delta Machine, some songs on Delta Machine that I didn't care for when they first came out, I suddenly had a bit of nostalgia attached to it, which I was kind of surprised about. And again, I think it just comes back to revisiting songs that perhaps didn't affect you in the, didn't have an effect on you the first time around, but you find something in them that you didn't go and hear before. But circling back to the point I was trying to make, I'll always check out their solo material, but the magic of Depeche Mode is in Depeche Mode. It is what the band is able to produce together when they go into the when they go into the studio. So, all right, before we get to listener feedback, let me share with you just a little tiny piece of insider info that I have. All right, so I was told by somebody who I trust immensely, right? And who has no reason to lie to me. And this is not gonna, like I said, I'm really overselling it. Martin's been working on songs. Let's just put it that way. I've been told very specifically that there is firsthand knowledge that Martin Gore in Santa Barbara has been working on new Depeche Mode material, at least in terms of writing. I know somebody had snapped a photo of Martin actually running. It was like a kind of a candid shot of Martin smiling, wearing a football jersey, and running on a trail, and he's kind of smiling, like they caught him in motion. But yes, I was told specifically that Martin has been writing new material, and it's not going to cost. I think that's not a huge groundbreaking. That's nothing groundbreaking. The band has talked about potentially getting into the studio. They've been on a longer hiatus because of the pandemic than they have been before. I'm hopeful, right? I'm always hopeful for new Depeche Mode material, but I'm really hopeful that this break the band has had will be an interesting change when because I do believe they're going to put out another album and probably tour again. I don't know how much more we'll get out of the band, but I really do believe that they will. But I'm hopeful that this lengthy period of time that they've gone through will end up resulting in something special. I believe that everything happens for a reason. It's one of the core themes in the books that I write. And I'm excited to see what the band does when they go back into the studio. And I think that they got I would imagine they kind of got the political vibe out of them, perhaps, which was all over Spirit, for better, for worse, for what it's worth. I remember last night, I was building my playlist before I went to bed, and for whatever reason, I grabbed "Where's the Revolution," and that song sounded fresh, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, having gone and revisited. So I'm really excited for what the band may be able to put together, who the producer might be, and we'll see. We'll see how quickly they can get back in studio now that the pandemic seems to be winding down. I guess it depends on what part of the world you're in. At least it feels like it is. I've been vaccinated. I don't know about you. All right. Before we wrap things up, let's get to a little bit of listener feedback. Dean writes in, and again, if you'd like to write the show, I always love to hear from you. I've had a lot of people reaching out on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook, Jon Justice, Jon Jon Justice. Just search for me on there. I got a couple of different pages there. One devoted to my being an author, and my personal page. You can also find me on Twitter at Jon Jon Justice, Jon Justice, or at the My Nerd World on Twitter. I use both of those accounts. Dean writes in, though, and says, just a quick note from New Zealand to say thanks for the Depeche Mode podcast. Richard Wybrow was a guy who I worked with early on in my radio career when I was doing alternative rock radio morning shows. And I worked for him for several years, and he now lives in New Zealand, which is why I bring that up. So there you go. I've only just discovered your podcast, and I'm listening to them on my daily commute to work across Auckland. I'm now 4 episodes in. My personal relation to DM goes back to the early 80s. I remember as a teenager speed skating to Just Can't Get Enough. Fantastic tempo to get the legs moving. I purchased Black Celebration on vinyl when it came out, and I'm still struck today by the lyrics of Fly on the windscreen. Would love to know what Martin was on when he wrote that one. I don't think DM have ever done a concert in New Zealand. They have managed to get to Australia, but not here, sadly. The closest we've got is a tribute band called Strangelove that came a couple of years back, which semi-satisfied the itch, but seeing the real thing would be a bucket list for me. Stay safe, Dean. Thanks so much for the email, Dean. And I know you wrote, if you're listening to this, I know you wrote that a long time ago. That's how long it's been sitting here waiting in my notes for me to do a another another podcast. So again, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com, and you can get all of my contact info over at mynerdworld.net. So before I let you go, I am an author. I do write a science fiction space opera series called EMBARK. There are 6 books available now. I'm in the process of writing book 7. All 6 books are available in an ebook, paperback, hardcover, and audiobook, narrated and produced by me. Apart from book 6, that audiobook is still pending. Why am I bringing this up on the show? Well, because book 1, and lesser in the other books, but book 1, the main protagonist, Taft, is a massive Depeche Mode fan. If this is the first time you're listening, it's the first time you're hearing this. If you're not, you're hearing this again, because I talk about this a lot on the show. So if you're into science fiction, if you're into fun space opera, it's good for all ages. They're written for adults, but children can enjoy them as well in terms of the content. Think Star Wars. This is the description for book 1. Katha has found something, and humanity won't survive without it. The stars are now within reach as global corporations D-Corp and Entercon have made interstellar travel possible and spaceflight available to all humanity. But when an industrial accident inside D-Corp sets off an apocalyptic chain of events, all of Earth is at risk. Unaware of the growing catastrophe, headstrong Katha Morrow receives a cryptic message from her father, an aerospace engineer who died 1 year earlier. Meanwhile, the ruthless Synargum of D-Corp attempts to exploit the global evacuation and gain control. With the help of fellow pilot Taft Guardia, whom I was talking about, Katha uncovers a shocking discovery that may hold the key to saving humanity from the tyranny of D-Corp's evil leader. Don't miss this fast-paced and action-packed space opera epic. The book is filled with Depeche Mode Easter eggs, directly and indirectly. So again, if you're a science fiction fan and you're a Depeche Mode fan, I think you'll really enjoy this series. You can actually get book 1 right now in ebook for just 99 cents, and with every other ebook after that costing $2.99. But you can also now get the trilogy box set for a discounted price if you buy all 3 of $3.99. So those are all available at Amazon.com, no matter what country you're in. Amazon.com, or just Amazon, whatever country you're in, and search for Jon, Jon Justice, and EMBARK. And also, you can go to mynerdworld.net, and there are links right there up on the homepage. So, again, thank you so much for checking out the show. I hope that you enjoyed it. I do not know when the next episode will be, but I do plan on being a little bit more consistent with my releases. There certainly will be a full review of the HD release of the 101 concert film coming up very soon once I'm able to get my hands on it. And I look forward to hearing from you as well. TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. Head on over to mynerdworld.net. I hope wherever you are happy, you are healthy, you are safe. And until next time, I'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks. Bye.